Welcome to Walk With Me, where we journey with others through the challenges they've faced in their life and the lessons they've learned from them. Real people sharing their stories and the wisdom they've gained from a life well lived. And here's your host, Stephanie Bloom.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Would you please introduce yourself and the short title to your story?
Hi, my name is Dr. Giordano, PhD, and my title of my book and the title of this podcast that I'm doing is called The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up.
Awesome. All right. So tell me about what life was like for you as a child.
Okay. Well, my family is a mafia type family, number one. Okay. So my uncle was a hitman. My father was a heroin dealer. My grandfather was a Shylock. Those are people who loan you money. And if you don't pay, you'll pay one way or the other. And the rest of my family was a nefarious group, I'll put it that way. They did different things. When I was 8, my father went to jail for selling heroin. And when I was 8 and a half, I got molested by some boys in the neighborhood. And that was kind of traumatic because part of me wasn't sure if I liked it or not. I felt all this shame and all this guilt. And if anybody would have found out, I would have wanted to kill myself. And when I was 9, my babysitter molested me. She was 14. So I went through all that. And then around 10, I got into gangs. I was in a white gang, black gang, Hispanic gang. I just went through the whole gamut. And then when I had an eating disorder. Well, I was overweight, and then I went into an eating disorder where I wouldn't eat, and I became anemic. And my mother took me to the doctor, and she couldn't believe how can I be anemic, but I wasn't eating. She didn't know, and I got through that. Then I got left back in the 6th grade because I was a class clown. So I have all these traumas that went on in my life. And when I got a little older, when I was like 15 or 16, I quit school in the 9th grade. And but thank God I went to karate when I was 14 and a half. And that got me out of the gangs. It gave me direction. I didn't do any drugs then or any alcohol or anything at all. It helped me and guided me, gave me discipline, gave me focus, gave me all of this stuff. But as I got older, I went to Florida. I met this girl, and we started doing drugs together to make a short talk about all this stuff, and then we got married. And my uncle threw the wedding. My uncle was the hitman I was talking about, and the caterer insulted him in front of the family. So the next morning he killed him. So I had to leave town real quick with my new bride. And then as time went on, I wound up, getting into drugs. And I said it would never be like my family. I became just like them, doing the drug dealer. I used to do collection work for the smugglers. Um, on and on and on and on and on. Okay, with all the things that we do. But thank God I never got arrested and I don't even have a misdemeanor. I don't know how that happened, but it's just what happened. Uh, my son, well, let me go forward a little bit more. I wound up going into treatment. My family did an intervention on me. I'm wondering who's doing an intervention on them because you know, they were the drug dealers and all this other thing. I had a great family. They're very kind and loving. Just don't mess with them. That's all. But anyway, so I went through all that, and I didn't realize at the time how traumatized I really was, to be
Yep.
honest with you. Okay, that's something that happens to us, but it shows up in our behaviors and shows up in the way we deal with things.
Yep.
Um, Long story short, I had a spiritual awakening in treatment. When I got out of treatment, I wanted to give back, and I wound up opening up a treatment center, and I got traumatized again. I didn't know anything about treatment centers. The only thing I knew, I was in one. My friend who owned a hotel, I was homeless when I started my journey, by the way, also. That's another trauma. My wife and I got divorced, but she was using, and I didn't want to use anymore. And they said, don't make any changes, major changes, first year of recovery. Well, it was 9 months and I couldn't take it anymore. She was using, and I'm going to wind up using, so I got out of there. Anyway, I wound up in a hotel room. My friend loaned me because he owned the hotel. It was an ALF, which is for adult congregate living facility for elderly people. And I gave him an idea to turn it into a 3/4 way house. That's where addicts and alcoholics live when they get out of treatment. And he did that. And then I told him I had a doctor who was a famous doctor, who happened to be my doctor in addiction, that he wanted to open up a treatment center, but I lied. I never even spoke to him about it. And he said, well, how much money do you need, John? I says, 250,000. Now, what do I know about how much money? I don't think I know. It was in treatment. So anyway, I went to the doctor and says, listen, I got $250,000. Would you like to open up a treatment center? He said, oh, I was just thinking about that, John. He was a comedian, So I said, oh, okay. So we opened up this treatment center. I hired my therapist who helped save my life. And I didn't know it was wrong. And I hired most of the people in Mount Sinai Hospital that I went to treatment there. So I took their staff. Okay. Well, I paid them more money than they were getting, and they came. So what happened was that we were packed. I went back to school. I got my GED. I was in the Addiction Training Institute getting my hours that I needed, all this stuff. You needed 300 hours, and you need 6,000 hours of supervision. So all of a sudden, we couldn't make payroll. And my friend that loaned us the money says, John, they're stealing. Now, I'm a street kid. And here I am, I'm saying, no, they're in recovery. They would never do that. Well, what happened was the doctor had a sex addiction. Okay, so he was buying hookers and buying apartments for them. And I walked into his office. I says, hey, are you stealing? He put his head down and he went through all this, what he was doing with the money. But the therapist, my therapist, didn't like the fact that his client was his boss. But it wasn't like that. But that's how he couched it in his head. So he blamed my friend for stealing, which my friend never had anything to do with the account anyway. And long story short, they took the treatment center out from under me.
Oh.
They said, if you don't sign this paper, we're going to open up another corporation and you're going to have nothing and your friend's going to have nothing. So if you sign it, we'll give him the accounts receivables and he can make back some of his money. So, of course, I did that. They gave me an outpatient clinic. They gave me 25% of this outpatient clinic, which had 3 clients in it. So I came up with an idea how to make a total continuum of care. And that's what we did. And then that loaded up. But he always tried to get rid of me over the years. And I had to swallow my pride, my ego, because where else was I going to get 6,000 hours of supervision?
Right.
So meanwhile, that was another trauma. So, I'm the king of trauma, I think.
Yeah, you've had a lot go on for sure.
Yeah. So meanwhile, my son was using drugs and selling drugs. And so I told him, listen, you can't do that in my house. If you're going to do that in my house, you got to go to treatment or you got to leave. So he decided to leave. So he was gone for a month. My family got on me. How could you do that? What are you doing? And every morning, every night or every day, whenever I got a phone call, I don't know if he was dead, if he was in the hospital or where he was. So meanwhile, he got arrested. He wound up in jail. Okay. And he called me up crying. I'm in jail, Dad. You got to help me. I said, no, I don't have to help you. So we went to court and the judge knew me. And I said to the judge is going to remand him in my custody. They said, no. I says, he's an addict. He needs to go to treatment. Would you put him on house arrest until I can get him into a treatment center? And that's what happened. So my son hated me. How could you do this to me? La, 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 la. Long story short, he's good now. He's coming up on 20 something years of recovery.
I love
But
how
it was hell. It
it
was
goes.
hell.
I love how it goes from how could you do this to me to thank you for doing that for me, right?
Right. But that's what he said.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for you, I would have probably died. But before he went to treatment, I mean, while he came out of treatment and he was still doing drugs, okay, and he OD'd.
Hmm.
So we rushed him to the hospital, and I'm watching my son then putting charcoal down his throat, and I thought he was going to die, and I was crying and blaming myself. This is when I'm a therapist. I'm in, I'm already in recovery, and it was just um, terrible. But he made it through. And then I put him back in treatment, and then he got it. But those are the things that go along, and then eventually, the good side. Well, then I've been married 4 times. My father told me, keep doing it till you get it right. So I had a broken picker. Okay, everybody I picked was like me, was broken.
Yeah.
So, even though you're in recovery and you stop using drugs and alcohol, you still have all these behaviors that you developed over time. It takes time to undevelop them.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes a lifetime,
Yes.
but as long as they don't interfere in your life. Meanwhile, I went to therapy. I went to meetings. I did everything I possibly could. And I met a woman who is the most incredible woman I ever met in my entire life. We're together now 29 years. And I never forget it. She was in my treatment center, my first treatment center. Now, I didn't even know who she was. I never even talked to her, paid attention to her. I don't pay attention to any women in treatment because they're needy and hungry for affection and, for all kinds of things. Anyway, over the years, we ran into each other when I was teaching at the college or doing something, seminars and lectures and stuff. Anyway, we wind up, she was an intern in South Miami Hospital, or South Shore Hospital. And I was in there doing group, and she came in. She was chewing gum. I said, "Get the gum out of your mouth, sit down." And I'm very forward, by the way. So she did, and she's a beautiful girl. All the boys all of a sudden were very nice and very good at group. That's what guys do. Anyway, she came out, and I had my son there because he was acting out in school at the time. This before he went to treatment and all this stuff. And he says, "Hey, Dad, that girl really likes you." I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." So I handed her my business card. I said, "Look, if you ever want to be an intern, call me up, and you can be an intern in my program, my outpatient program." So 2 weeks later, I get a call. It's her. So I says, "Hello. Oh, yeah, I remember you." I says, "You want to be an intern?" She says, "No, I want to go out with you." So so I said, "Okay." So we wind up going out, and we're going out about 3 months. And I just opened up the treatment center. It was open for a little while, and we weren't doing that great. We needed more money, and she had a brand new car, and her kids were in there. She had 2 kids, and the kids were messing up the car. And I said, "Look, sell your car, give me the money, and I'll get you a car 10 times better one day." So she sold the car and gave me the money. Her family was all upset, and she says, "I always knew you would be successful."
Hmm.
So 8 years later, I bought her a Bentley.
Awesome.
So I started my company with $300, and in 2012, I sold it for $45 million.
Wow.
Now, if you would tell me that would happen back then, I probably would have punched you in the face thinking you're making fun of me. So God watched over me, and we were broke as a joke. We had creditors chasing us. I mean, you go through the typical stuff. But as time went on, I got 2 partners, and one of the partners was an internet genius, and I did the branding and running the program, and all of a sudden, boom, it started to explode. We started off with a little 750 square foot room, and we wind up later on having 147 employees in 7 buildings.
Wow.
How
That's
that
huge.
happened, yeah, it's crazy. And I wound up becoming the leading expert on alternative medicine and psychedelic medicine. And I'm currently in 80 medical and scientific peer-reviewed journals. I lecture all over the world. I'm a kid from the South, inner city kid from the projects. I only went to the 9th grade, and I fought through all of this. And, and that's why I tell people, I wrote the book to tell people to never give up. And I like to read a little in the back cover for everybody. And I want to show them no matter what happens in your life, no matter what goes on, okay, things change. And don't believe everything you think, number one. And fear is false evidence appearing real. But what most people do, they F everything and run. So, you know, so this is the book, by the way, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. And it goes like this. There is one thing in this world, one special lesson, one constant that has guided me through the turbulent waters of life. Most people know this infinite rule, but they ignore it or simply do not follow their life lessons. That is, no matter what, no matter the circumstances, the obstacles, the people that get in our way, or things that slow us down, follow this one simple rule. Never give up on your dreams, never let go of your passions, and especially never give up on yourself or a God of your understanding. My name is John Giordano, and I'm a recovering addict who turned $300 into $45 million. I was blessed to become extremely successful, and I would like to share my story with you. This is how my life was transformed and how I was saved from falling into the abyss of hell by following this one rule. I learned how to have a life worth living. So that's my talk to people that give up. There are no failures in life, there are only lessons.
Yep.
Things change. Nothing stays where it is. And the only thing we have to remember is where our feet are. We're not living in the future. The past is gone, and those are our lessons. Even though they might seem horrific to people, okay, you can always glean some pearl of knowledge out of it. And maybe share it with somebody else who's suffering like you. And that's my journey. Any
That's a
questions?
lot. Any questions? Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. So hold on. Now I gotta process this because that was a lot all at once. You've definitely shared this story more than one time because that was really smooth. When you were what motivated you to want to start a treatment center, not having any sort of background in that sort of business world or anything?
It's interesting you said that because I'm a grand master in the martial arts also.
Okay.
I'm a 10th degree black belt. I'm a black belt in judo, black belt in jiu-jitsu, national karate champion, black belt hall of fame, all that kind of stuff. And I look back on, I ran into an article, they featured me in a magazine in 1976. And one of the things they said is karate is meant to teach people how to be basically the best version of themselves.
Mm.
So what I learned in treatment, and that's what I'm doing, is helping people to be the best version of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I just carried along from my martial art training right into the addiction field. And, I love learning, and I always did. And, I'm watching people that they have so much potential, but potential is only as good as what you do with it,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And a lot of people in life, like a lot of addicts, they live in their past, so they get depressed, and they live in the future, so they get anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to be in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I work with them is that I also teach them about how you get depression and anxiety besides psychological. For most people don't know there was medical conditions that cause depression and anxiety.
100%.
So you have a low thyroid can cause depression and anxiety. You can have leaky gut syndrome, H. pylori infection causes depression and anxiety. Low testosterone, high testosterone causes depression and anxiety. Hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, depression and anxiety. Heavy metals interferes with neurotransmission in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got closed head injuries, suicidal ideation, behavioral problems, depression, anxiety. All of the things are precursors for depression and anxiety. Now, that's what I lecture about. And I teach people that the body is connected to the head. And what most people don't know and realize that their gut is their second brain.
Mm-hmm.
You have more neurons in your gut than you have in your brain.
Thank you,
And
vagus nerve.
Right. Well, 80 to 90% of dopamine and serotonin is manufactured in your gut. It
Yes.
goes up the vagus nerve and deposits it into your brain. And now you have genetics. Now I work with Dr. Blum. He's the geneticist who found the main addiction gene, which is the DRD2 ALE1 variant gene. Now, just because you have that gene doesn't mean you have a sentence to be
Correct.
an addict or an alcoholic, because such a thing as epigenetics.
Yes.
Meaning
Right
the
above the genes.
environment can change the gene expression.
Yep.
But when you put all of this stuff together with trauma, with all early childhood things, you have to approach people as a holistic, comprehensive approach.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing that in treatment. We
Nope.
keep doing it from here up, and we're missing from here down. So I tell people, look, send your head to treatment, leave your body home. Because if you're not talking about your body, you're not talking about the whole enchilada here.
Yeah.
So that's my main goal. I dedicated my life to improve treatment outcomes. I've been to a lot of funerals, hundreds of funerals. I've had, like I told you earlier, I had people die in my arms. I brought them back to life through CPR. A funny story, these two girls, I get a call, it's 3 a.m. I run out of my house to the treatment center. They're locked in the bathroom. I kick the door in. One girl's in the bathtub, unconscious, and the other girl's dead. So one of the techs, they grabbed the girl out of the bathtub, revive her. I get the girl that's dead. I gave her CPR. I brought her back. And she turned around, looked at me. She says, "You MF, okay, why don't you let me die?"
Mm.
Okay. But the moral of the story is a good one, because 3 years later, I get a call and I remembered her. And she said to me, "I want to thank you for saving my life.
Mm.
My life has turned around, and I never thought it would. I just wanted to die." So you talk about suicide. My wife tried to commit suicide a few times. She suffers from bipolar disorder. I'm very familiar with suicide. And a lot of times people are crying for help. They don't want to die. But some of them do it and make that happen. And what they don't understand is the most selfish act you can do is because there's no hope then. And all the people are left with this for the rest of their life, looking at them and saying, "Why did you do that to us and yourself?" So those out there, they need to reach out and talk to somebody, because things change. It doesn't matter if you lost your mother, your father, which I lost my mom and dad. Okay, they're dead. I lost my grandmother, my grandfather. I mean, look, people die. Okay. I lost jobs. I got betrayed by my doctor and my therapist, and it happened twice. I opened up another treatment center after that one, and the guy was a corporate raider. I didn't know. I didn't read the contract, and he took it out from under me again. And I never forget, I was sitting on the hood of my car crying. I couldn't believe that this happened again to me. So things happen, but you got to keep going forward. And if I would have stopped then, I would have never realized having a beautiful wife that loves me more than anything in the world, having grandchildren, I wouldn't have had all those things. So if anybody out there is thinking about killing themselves, stop with the baloney already. Okay? Go get help. All right? It'll be a memory. It'll be in the past. Okay? And you'll learn from it. And that's what life's about. Life's lessons. Okay? There are no failures. I know things seem really horrible. I'm also a chaplain for the North Miami Police Department. So I deal with officers that get in shootings.
Mhm.
I deal with vets coming back from war,
Mhm.
women that have been molested and raped and things like that. These are the kind of clients that I deal with, besides the addicts and the mental health clients.
Mhm.
So I hear all of these things. I mean, I could tell you the most horrific stories you ever want to hear in your entire life. Okay. But, there's only so many stories in the world. Then they all start to sound the same.
Mhm.
Okay. I know that may sound silly to some people, but you're not alone, whoever you are out there. I promise you, there are thousands of people that have been through the same stuff.
Mhm.
And you have to realize that you can succeed. You can move forward, even though it seems hopeless. Okay. As long as you keep moving, it's hard to hit a moving target. I'll put it that way.
As long as you're still breathing, there's still reason to keep going.
Yeah, and you know, it's not going with your own mind because your own mind has so much information. So you got to go to other people's minds that've been there before,
Mm,
you know. And there's a lot of people that survived all of this, and there's some who haven't. But those are the ones who gave up before the miracle happened.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Just keep going. Yeah. It's easier said than done for sure, but I'm sure that in your tenure and all of the things you've been involved in, you found some really good ways to help process trauma, right? You've been through enough of it.
Well, I'm a traumatologist, so I redeveloped the technique. I suggest anybody that do EMDR.
Uh-huh.
It's eye movement desensitization reprocessing. But you know, Shapiro is the one, and I'll explain to people what that means. There's Dr. Shapiro. And this is the story I heard. I know there's a million stories, but I don't know if it's the true one. But this is the one I heard. Now I've been doing EMDR for 23 years. She developed it, I think, 25, 26 years ago, something around that time. Anyway, her father had died, and she was walking in a field of tall grass. The grass was blowing rather severely because the wind was blowing it really hard, and she was severely depressed. And all of a sudden, the depression lifted. So, being a neuroscientist and a clinician and a researcher, she couldn't figure out how that happened. So she went around and she looked about what was going on with the eyes. She figured out that there was a team out of Berkeley doing REM studies, that means rapid eye movement studies, and what they found out how the eyes encode trauma in the brain. So she developed this technique where they move their hands in front of your eyes in different patterns, which goes from the right and left hemisphere of the brain. And to put it simplistically, okay, it's like it creates a storm in the brain. And trauma is a closed loop. Okay, so what it does is it opens up that loop and puts everything where it desensitizes it, where you're looking at the trauma intellectually, not emotionally. Because when you look at things emotionally, things get all clouded and messed up. But what she had to do, because of the psychiatrist, everybody laughed at her and they said, "Oh yeah, move your hands in front of the eyes, you're going to fix somebody." But it worked. So she had to put it in a structure that you need 6 sessions, you need this, you need that. I redeveloped it. I'm also a hypnotherapist. I do holotropic breathing, and I am a neurolinguistic programming NLP practitioner. I put all those modalities together. I get rid of trauma in 20 minutes, and it doesn't come back.
That's amazing.
I know it sounds crazy. I
No,
always
that sounds
laugh. I
amazing.
have people sit in my chair and I go, "Listen, I don't want you to believe a word I tell you.
Oh,
You do your part, I do my part. And if it doesn't work, you can laugh at me. But let me warn you, it's been over 20 years, nobody's ever laughed." So that's my routine.
that's incredible.
And it
I
really works.
I'm sure it does. Yeah. No, I hear that story that you just shared about the doctor who developed it and how she had to kind of mm, structure it so that it would be acceptable to the intellectuals in the realm, right? But the intellectuals aren't always practitioners. And sometimes the practitioners know more than the intellectuals because you're actually out there doing the work. And so for you to just apply the things that you've learned and reconfigure it, 20 minutes is amazing. Is that something that you teach to other people?
Yeah. I have one of my staff members, she learned EMDR, and after the clients go see her, they send them to me. Because, see, what I'm very like, I'm a Virgo, so I guess I'm OCD when it comes to looking at stuff.
Mhm.
And you see, it's a distraction with the eyes, but you cannot move any other part of your body because it diminishes what that effect is. You
Okay.
can't move your head, you can't hold your breath, you can't tighten your lips, you can't move your hands. When people start to emote emotions, they start to tighten up, they start to hold their breath, they start to
Yeah.
move their hands. That diminishes what you want to do with the eyes. Okay, so I developed that. Then emotions are not just in your head, they're in your body.
Hmm.
So what I do is I place it in the body and I give it form. So in other words, I would say to somebody, okay, well, let's say, God forbid, but let's say you got raped. I don't go to the rape. What I do is I go to the emotion that was elicited by that rape.
Right. The
Because
terror, the
oddly
fear.
enough,
Hmm.
what happens is very interesting that that comes like a hook and grabs other things that happen to you from that emotion. So
Mm.
it's pretty wild the way it works with the brain.
Okay.
So what I do is I say, okay, all right, this feeling, where is it in your body? So they'll say the head. I say, where is it in your body? Okay, it's in my stomach or my chest. Put your hand on your chest.
Mhm.
And then what I tell them is this: does it have a shape? What shape does it have? If it were to have a shape, what color does it have? What does that color represent? Mad, sad, scared, glad? I'm giving it form. Does it have any weight? Does it have any movement? Does it have any smell? Does it have any taste? Okay. How about temperature? Then I do a scale from 10 to 0. And I want to see, okay, at this moment in time, how strong is it now? Okay. Let's say they say 7. Hey, make it stronger. Keep thinking about it. I want you to be there. Feel that emotion. Become part of it. Then I do the technique on them and I have them breathe real quick or real hard. Because now what I'm doing is I'm oxygenating the brain.
Mhm.
Okay. So then after that, I do another cadence and another. Then the last cadence I do, okay, I have them breathe real hard. So their oxygen, I have a hyperventilate.
Mhm.
And then the last one, I have them pick something that they really felt good about, something that they accomplished in their life that they didn't think they could. And if they didn't have something like that, to make up something that they could relate to. And then I do another thing and I instill that into their brain. It's the wildest technique I've ever seen in my entire life. And it works incredibly well. You see, you have to give, you see, we keep leaving out the body.
Yeah. I was
This
just
is a
gonna say
system like the planet. This is a system. Our universe is a system. What are we doing? We
the
have
I
to treat
yeah.
people.
I was gonna say the idea like how Western medicine has a different ology or an ologist for everything is so crazy to me because it's mind, it's body, and it's spirit always. You have to address all three. You can't just address one of them.
Absolutely. And spirituality is another issue, which is a foundation, I believe, for anything of recovery. And, and I was, me, I used to say, excuse my expression, F God. I don't want to hear about God. I didn't go to these meetings to join a new religion. Okay. An old timer came up to me once, and I call myself a recovering Catholic. Okay. So the old timer came up to me in a meeting. He goes, John, how about God? I said, look, man, I know how to spell. So he said, no, no, no. How about good, orderly direction? I said, that I can do. That was my God for the first year or two. But then I got a God of my understanding. And and the bottom line is we need something. We have to realize that inside of us there's a light, and you want to fan that light. And I always tell people if you're in a dark room, no matter how big it was, and you lit a match, you could see that match anywhere in that room. That's how powerful light is. So you want to grow that light within you, and just walk in that path, and you will attract good into your life. And when other things come into your life, you'll have the strength to move on and not get stuck in it. And that's what I teach people. Simple stuff.
Sim- Simply amazing. I really love how you bring the emotion to the surface in that process and have them sit in it because so many things in our current existence tells you to shove it away, ignore it, pretend it doesn't exist, and that's how things fester and that's how they start to cause problems. But if you can just sit with whatever terror, fear, whatever it is for an extended 5 minutes, it diminishes its power. It loses its chemical structure within your body. You're literally using those techniques to dissipate things that have been stuck inside tissues. And once they're gone, you've processed it. You've dealt with it. You can look back on the memories or the instances with less emotional reaction because you've literally processed the chemicals away.
What people don't understand, there's a story. Is it a blessing or a curse? You ever heard the story about a blessing or a curse?
No.
Okay. It's a little story.
Okay.
There was this guy that was in the mountains in this village, and he had this beautiful stallion, this Arabian stallion. And people from the village, they came up and they wanted to buy the stallion. They said, no, no, no. They offered him ridiculous amount of money. He said, no, 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 no. I don't want to buy. Oh, they said you're crazy. Somebody left the gate open. His son left the gate open. The horse ran away. Villagers came back up and said, look, You see what happened? Now you have nothing. So he says, well, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, right? It's, you're crazy. 3 days later, the horse came back with 10 other horses and back into the thing. So the guy said, wow, you're so lucky. I can't believe that happened. He says, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. So he said, what are you, crazy? So his son, okay, was feeding the animals, okay, and they were going to war. His son was supposed to go to war, right? And what happened is they stampeded a little bit and they broke the kid's leg. And they says, well, I don't know if that was a blessing or a curse. He didn't have to go to the front lines. So you don't know what all of these things could be. They could be a blessing in disguise, and you don't even realize it. You give time, and things kind of shake out. And people say, well, how could somebody that's dead? Well, they're not really, their body's dead, but their spirit is inside of you. Their lessons are inside of you. So you want to honor that person. You're living now for them too. So stop feeling sorry for your dead ass, in plain English, and get moving. It's not, it's hard. Well, it's a lot harder when you don't do that. So make up your mind. Running away is like trying to run a dog running away from its tail. It ain't happening. So get over yourself. Move forward. Stop being selfish and self-centered. Reach out and get help. And that's my conversation with people.
I like it. I think of it as like when you can be present in the moment, like that's a gift, right? You're not anxious about the future and you're not worried and ruminating on the past. You can be present in the moment is awesome. But further, you need to learn how to accept reality for what it actually is and not the story in your mind, right? So you have to stay out of the past, you have to stay out of the future, but you also have to stay out of the mind and just be present in your body in the moment, right? And that's where all those gifts come from, because that it's a gift to be in that moment alone, but then all the things that can come from being present in the moment and being able to authentically connect with people and being able to experience things that later can become a memory, right? But for now, you just being in the present is huge. And most people can't do that, let alone when you've had trauma on top of trauma and you're not taught how to process it, right? That's stealing so much from what your life could be. So instead of running away or checking out permanently from this minor situation, right? Take a step back and realize that the gift is to do the work so that you can be present and be calm in your body at the same time.
Well, most people will say it's not minor, it's major. Okay. It doesn't matter. Minor, major, whatever you want to call it. The bottom line, that's part of your journey. Okay. And, I believe God, my God of your understanding, may have put that into your life for your life lessons. Now, it's how you view those things, where you're going to go forward with. Now, there are people that drink over, drug over, people that kill themselves over these things. Um, there's so many stories of things that happen. I remember, my friend that running a music place, and one of his workers was waiting to be this job, and he put his resume in and things like that, and they gave it back to him that he didn't make it, but they sent it to the wrong guy, so he killed himself. Okay, but he really got the job. I know it's just a job, but it was so important to him, and he killed himself over it. People kill themselves over all kinds of stuff. The girl cheated on me. The guy cheated on me. My dog died. Whatever. Okay. And it's so sad they need to let the movie play out. And is it easy? Absolutely not. It's a part of us, all these traumas. It's not when I was writing this book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up, I was crying. Okay. I was emotional. I had to put the book down. I was reliving all my traumas again, but from a different perspective now. Now I'm awake. I wasn't awake before. I was sleeping. So now I'm awake, and now I'm looking and I'm re-feeling the feelings I didn't feel before. I was numb, and I didn't even know I was numb. So people that read the book, they go, I can't believe how you talk about this stuff. I say, because now I'm able. It doesn't have power over me. I would never let you know somebody molested me. I would never let you know that I only went to the ninth grade and I couldn't spell very well. Well, now I got spell checks. I'm doing good. But anyway, okay. So you got to just keep going at life. It's a blessing to be alive. But, that is a but. If you don't take care of this gift that God gave you, remember, God, whatever it is to anybody here, this is a gift. Okay. It's what you do with that gift is that gift back to the Creator. So if you're smoking cigarettes, if you're eating garbage, you're not working out, you're not taking care of yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, okay, what are you doing? I get addicts, they quit drugs and alcohol and they're smoking cigarettes. I said, all you're doing is changing seats in the Titanic. You're going down. So you're going down a little later than the guys in the front, they go in the back. It doesn't matter. Okay. So you have to look at everything. And people say, well, it's so hard. Yeah, but it's harder to suffer and wind up in a hospital or wind up where you can't breathe and you can't walk. I mean, my mother died of COPD.
Mm.
So she didn't want to quit. Well, there's a consequence for that. She killed herself. What are you
I'm,
going to do?
I'm a big fan of saying choose your hard, right? You either choose the hard of discipline or you choose the hard of regret, but you have to choose. And I would hands down rather choose the
Well,
discipline.
what people say, well, I don't want to choose. Well, guess what? No decision is a decision.
Yeah.
That's it. No
Yeah.
decision is a decision.
Yeah. You either sacrifice for what you want or you sacrifice what you want. There's no in between. You
No,
have to make a choice.
absolutely.
This has been
So that's why I do these shows and that's why I do all this stuff. Hopefully I touch one soul, and that soul touches another one and you have a chain reaction. Because, when you do addiction treatment and mental health, if you help one person, you help a whole family.
yeah.
So, what you have to understand, people have to stop just thinking about themselves. People go to meetings and they go, well, I get nothing out of that meeting. I said, first question I ask, well, what'd you put in?
Exactly. Exactly.
Simple stuff. It's not rocket science. What'd you put in? Make it better.
Yeah. No, I think in our current culture we've been sold this idea that it's all about just the individual, what you want to be when you grow up, what satisfies your needs, you, right? But I think it's a mistake because I think we should be good stewards of what we're given, right? If you're a good steward of your body, then you get to enjoy it for a long time. If you're a good steward of your home, then maybe your kids can enjoy your home when you're gone, right? It's more about being a steward and contributing more than what you're taking.
And what people have to realize, even if you do everything as best you can, and you still get sick, and stuff happens, life is going to show up. I always tell people, if none of that stuff is happening, that means you died.
Right.
I mean, who do you know that doesn't have stuff happening in their life?
Right. We all have battles.
Listen, I'm 78. I take real good care of I'm in better shape than guys 38.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Not only that, I had cancer. All right, about 2 years ago now. I had just had surgery on my neck. I got 14 screws and 2 rods in my neck. Okay. Now I can complain and say, oh my God, what do I forget it? I just went in there and fixed it as best I could. And I feel great. If I start feeling bad for myself and poor me, I will attract all the pain. Now it's where it is, you know. So people got to learn, okay, that to reach out and get help if you don't feel like you can handle something. Okay? It's no shame in your game if you reach out for help. But reach out for the right kind of help. Okay? Don't ask somebody as sick as you to help you. You know?
Yeah.
Go to people that can help you. And if they don't help you, go to the next person. I tell drug dealers, I said, well, I don't like that therapist, and I'm done. Well, go to another therapist. Hey, when the drug dealer was out of drugs, you say I'm not getting high today.
Right.
Come on, you were searching. All right. So what are you doing? Keep going until you find what you like.
I love that. Put the same effort into finding a therapist that you would in getting your fix. That's amazing.
Right. Yeah. You ain't giving. Oh, I'm not getting high today. I can't find anybody. Forget
Right.
it.
That never happens. That never happens.
No, never happens.
Yeah.
Because people go for what they really want.
Yeah.
Maybe not what they need, but what they want.
Yeah. Do you want to get better or not? Keep working
Yeah,
at it.
that's it. You don't? Okay, don't. I don't suffer, you do. I feel bad for you, but I'm
Yeah.
not in charge.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think people are scared of being in charge of themselves.
Well, I think what happens is from early childhood, people have expectations on them, and and they're insecure. And I teach people how to become secure because they lose belief in themselves. And then they say people don't believe. They blame other people. I blamed everybody in my life. God, this one, that one, you know, until I learn to take responsibility for my choices. Okay. And a lot of people don't do that. And that's the sad part. You have to take responsibility for yourself. And you have to do the work. And if you don't do the work, you're not going to get it done. I don't know what else to tell people. It's
Yeah.
just, is it easy? No, it's hard. Life is hard, but life is also a good time. Go learn to enjoy yourself. Go walk on the beach. Go walk in the grass. Or look at the beauty that's around you. Stop looking at all the garbage that you're in. Okay, because there's beauty there too. It all depends where you want to look.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Every day is a gift if you treat it that way.
Start treating yourself right. That's all I can tell you.
I love it. Dr. Giordano, what are you looking forward to in your life right now?
To change the way treatment's done, okay, to go around the world and teaching people about what we're not doing to help people, um, and sharing them information. I mean, that's why I couched myself a certain way, that I got all these degrees I wound up getting, and I'm in all these medical journals. And, people look at paper and they look at all this stuff instead of the human being that's giving them good information.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to get through that first door in order for them to even listen. I listen I teach doctors. It's like stupid. Now, my doctorate degree actually is an honorary doctorate degree that I got from Sinai University for all the work I've done in the communities. So it's like, hey, I'm a street kid training doctors and therapists and all of this stuff. And it really doesn't matter. Knowledge, nobody owns the knowledge. Knowledge is universal. All I'm doing is sharing this conduit to you. And I always tell people, please do not, and I'll tell anybody, your listeners, do not believe a word I tell you. Go look for yourself
Yep.
because people don't believe you anyway.
Right.
So we're talking about the gut, we're talking about the brain connection. Oh, they don't believe you. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, yeah, okay, well, yeah, go look it up.
Yeah.
You know, it's better that way.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because,
there's a lot of stuff. I do hyperbaric medicine.
okay.
That's oxygen under pressure.
Yeah.
Turns into a medicine. That's for TBI cases, traumatic brain injury
Mm-hmm.
cases, also for addiction. I was one of the first ones to use hyperbarics for addiction 20 something years ago. I mean, light and sound therapy
Mm-hmm.
is also frequencies.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Aromatherapy, aromas make a difference. There's a lot. Acupuncture's only been around 5,000 years. I mean, and then a lot of people don't understand why their body's not functioning right. There's such a thing as called zombie cells. And
Mm-hmm.
people go, what do you mean zombie cells? It's called senolyticals, if you want to use the medical term. There's cells in your body that don't completely shut off and they clog up the works and they cause inflammation in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things. If you start listening and learning, you start understanding this beautiful body that we have, this avatar that holds our souls. You know, it's like we drive a car, but we don't know anything about the engine.
Yeah.
Okay. So you ever see people on the highway, they got stuff, they open up the hood, they're looking at it like, they don't even know what they're looking at. Yeah, there's a bunch of metal there. Okay, yeah, I wonder what's wrong. So it's the same thing with the body. You're looking at your body, you don't know what's going on. Learn.
Know
Get a lot of
thyself.
information.
Yeah. Know thyself, right?
Right?
Yeah. Good stuff. I really appreciate you spending some time with me and sharing with my audience some really amazing bits of information. I'm really excited to start following your work and looking more into it. You've really inspired me.
Oh, thank you. You can go to my website, John, the letter J, not J-A-Y, just the initial J, Giordano.com. And you'll see all the projects I'm into. You'll see television shows and concerts that I did and all kinds of stuff and some of the research, and have fun, and go from there.
I love it. Any last parting words of advice or wisdom?
Yeah. You know what? If you're listening to this podcast with you and I, with Stephanie and myself on this podcast, there's a higher power guiding you here. Take the information and see what you can do with it.
I love it.
Easy.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for you inviting me.
Most welcome.